Hi there, friends. This is Brent Harris. I'm a productivity coach. We talk ordinarily about sustainable high-level productivity, and today this subject will be positive thinking versus negative thinking. So the title of the video is what to do about negative thoughts. And so when I say negative thoughts, I'm referring to any manner of self-doubt, self-judgment, pessimism, cynicism, worry, anxieties, these kinds of things. Any sort of thinking that comes at us that we consider to be unhelpful, that we just wish we were not thinking, that we wish was not actually happening. Step into the frame a little better. There we go, that's good. That we wish were not happening, that we wish we could change about ourselves and as our minds, and yet seem to resist change. They seem to resist our attempts to apply positive thinking and these kind of old school self-help principles. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you a technique that I use to govern my own thinking. So I don't exactly control my thoughts. I don't think that is, strictly speaking, possible, but I govern my thoughts. I have leadership over my thoughts. And in that way, I'm able to have influence over what kind of thinking occurs in my mind. And I'm able to successfully do that. And I will share with you the technique that I use to do that. This kind of thing is very important because if we desire to actualize our greater ambitions and goals in life, well, we need to have a lot of congruence. We need to be able to just move forward in a single unified direction without having self-sabotage. So if we're trying to create a YouTube video or write a book or start a business or something like this, any sort of creative, productive endeavor, and at the same time our mind is firing off at us about why what we're doing is shitty and why it won't work and why it sucks and why everybody will hate it and why it's a waste of time and a waste of resources and on and on and on, all the different stuff that the mind says in order to stop us from doing what we're doing. If that's kind of going in the background, then it makes it pretty darn difficult to do the thing. So if we're able to properly govern our thoughts and master our psychology so that we just move in one direction, then we can actually just move in that way. And the thing is, like, what's so amazing about this kind of thing is that when we originally conceive of an idea, so like suppose if as I talk to you, you are in the midst of one of these projects, whether it's a business, a project, a school thing, a hobby such as music, creating art, learning a language, whatever it is. When you began this thing, you had a vision of succeeding. You had this vision of like how good it could be and how you could totally do it and how amazing it would be to not only have accomplished it, but to go through the process of accomplishing it. And yet when it came time to actually start doing it, you started meeting so much resistance and friction that it's not really fun anymore, and it just kind of feels like wading through molasses. So it's through mastering our psychology that we can remove that molasses effect. And so I talk about this a lot, especially in one of my earlier videos called frictionless creative output, something like that, where I talk a lot about the creation process. But this particular video, it'll be about mastering the psychology. So we'll get into that presently. But I want to emphasize that if you do this, right, if you learn how to do this, it's such a valuable skill. And there's just so much that opens up for you. There's so many doors that opens up. And your productivity just, there's such leverage in learning to do this that your productivity doubles, triples, quadruples because we're placing the fulcrum so close to the lever point, if that makes sense. I think it makes sense. So good. So the practical philosophy of positive thinking, what to do. Let's start really briefly with what not to do and what does not work. I think you already know where this is going, which is positive thinking as a bludgeon. So positive thinking where you set up a rule system in your mind of what thoughts are okay and permissible and what thoughts are not okay and permissible. And you try to only think positive things and try never to think negative things. And if a negative thing comes in your mind, you're like, no, I can't think a negative thought. Those of you who are from the school of manifestation and the law of attraction, of which I preach the gospel all day long, I'm right there with you with manifestation and law of attraction. We can sometimes become really superstitious about negative thinking, where it's like, oh no, like negative thoughts are here, and if the negative thoughts are here, then they're going to create negative results, right? I'm going to manifest bad stuff, so I can't think about it. And then we start becoming afraid of our own minds. Oh, and it gets so confusing, and then all this like buildup of like fear comes on, and then we start like losing sleep and shit. It can get really, really extreme. I've seen it get really, really bad. And it's not a good way to go. And in the meantime, we're trying to like think positive stuff only, and that doesn't work either, because like the positive thoughts keep being replaced by the negative thoughts, and down the drain we go, down the downward spiral we go. So needless to say, this is not a good technique, trying to police your thoughts. Generally speaking, even though it's possible to maybe for like 30 seconds, you can kind of like really flex and like, you know, control what you think. Like you can think a thing on purpose if you want. Generally speaking, it's not possible to control what thoughts come in and out of your mind. And we can certainly agree that it's not effective. It's not a good use of your time and energy to govern, to control and force what thoughts come in and out of your mind. So the first step, I guess, in the process of governing your thoughts is to allow your thoughts to come and go as they will. It's not unlike governing a country. Like if you try to govern a country or a city, you can't make the people do the things. You can't make them stay. You can't make them go. You can't make them be productive. All you can do is set up structures that optimize productivity, and set up structures that make people want to stay and make them not want to leave. And so your energy is better spent on making structural improvements when you're governing a country, and in the case of governing a mind. So governing a mind, setting up structures. So the equivalent here is choosing what you believe. So I'm going to lay out a metaphor for you here, so come along with me on this journey. As a child, almost every child has a fear of a monster under the bed, or a monster in the closet, or a ghost in the basement. We all have, as children, a fear of some sort of physical threat in the house somewhere that typically is threatening at nighttime. So for example, let's just imagine a young child such as yourself or myself, 5 years old and scared of a monster in the closet. In my case, it was a monster in the closet. So that's how that went. Now, what's noteworthy about this kind of thing is that it's not that we're of one mind, we're of two minds. So on one hand, we believe that there's a monster possibly in the closet that kind of materializes at nighttime, and it might come out and kill us or eat us or something like that. And then at the same time, simultaneously, we know that there isn't a monster. And if we didn't know that, then, and if we were truly 100% convinced that there was a monster in the closet, then we wouldn't even get in the bedroom in the first place. We wouldn't walk in. Why would we? There's a monster there. It would be like, you know, imagine seeing like an actual rattlesnake in your bedroom. You wouldn't go anywhere near it, right? So on one hand, we're afraid there might be a monster there. And on the other hand, we kind of already know that a monster is not there. And so what we do, the way the fear kind of maintains itself, is that we play both sides of the fence. We never go all the way over here, but we never also go all the way over there either. And then the fear is able to live in the middle ground. Because what happens is, like, say we're in bed and, okay, like, you know, the closet's over there, you know, we'll think, okay, well, maybe if I get out and close the closet door, then like, it won't be able to see me. And I'll hide under the covers, and I'll like turn away, and I'll hide under the sheets, and then the monster may not see me or whatever. And, you know, clearly, you know, like, you know, obviously it doesn't provide any sort of real protection, but it kind of provides a sort of sense of protection. And there's huge, I'm like kind of going through this slowly because there's enormous analogs here between like this example and stress in our adult lives. So I want to really lay this out. So we kind of think, okay, maybe this is like sort of a protection, and maybe I'm keeping myself safe in a sort of way. And then this goes on. It's like a drama. It's like back and forth, you know, kind of afraid, kind of not afraid. I'm safe, I'm not safe. 99% knowing, 1% of, you know, just kind of hedging our bets just in case. And this goes on until we decide that we're done being afraid. And so when we're done being afraid, what do? What would you do? You know, take a second to think about it. What would you do if you don't want to be afraid of something anymore? Well, you expose yourself to it. And you take stock of what you know, of objectively speaking, if we step outside of everything and really look at this situation with the most intelligence that we can possibly muster, what do we know? We know that there is no actual monster in the closet. We know that. So in order to move into 100% knowing of this monster, 100% knowing that there's no monster there, we go up, we get out of bed, and we approach the closet, and we open it up, and we look for it. And maybe that's enough. Or if it's not enough, then we might stand in the middle of the room and we say, okay, if there's any monsters out there, we say it really loud and clear. If there are any monsters out there, then now's your chance to come out and attack me. So we say, okay, if there's any monsters out there, then just come out and attack me. Come out and meet me. Let's go. Let's get this over with. Let's do it. And so then what will happen is, like, in your mind, because all of this is just taking place within your mind, you know, like the monster might be like, okay, well, I'm going to really do it then. I'm going to really come out and attack you. And then you'd say like, okay, great, do it. Let's go. I'm ready. I want the experience. Give me the whole deal. Give me the premium membership version of the monster experience. And the monster's like, yeah, okay, all right. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be bad. There's no going back from this. This will be a permanent done thing. I'm going to kill you to death. And you say, good, good. And then what becomes apparent eventually is that the only power that this monster has in your mind is to threaten you. When it comes time to actually make good on the threat, there's nothing that it can actually do because it's all taking place within the mind. And so as soon as you move out of resistance where you're trying to defend yourself against the threat and you open yourself up completely to the threat, then the threat, it's just the game is over. The drama is over. It's like you were playing a video game, but now the power plug has been pulled out of the video game. There's no game anymore. It's done. And you wake up out of the whole thing. That's how fear is dissolved. So that's how we go about it. So, okay, so good. So now we can talk about how to bring this into real life because, you know, perhaps you're no longer afraid of there being monsters in the closet, but now maybe you are a little bit concerned that everybody hates you or nobody likes your work or that you're a failure or that you've screwed up or that you made some mistake in your past or that you'll never ever truly succeed in the way that you hope to succeed in your life. These are the adult monsters in your closet. And now we enter a tricky part of the conversation because as I tell all this to you, I realize with some humility that I'm battling an uphill battle because I need to stick with one example. Let's stick with the example of maybe you hold this belief that you can't actually achieve a particular goal that you have in mind and you really doubt whether or not it's possible at all and it's making you kind of pull your punches a little bit. You're not really trying your best. You're not really applying yourself because you're afraid you'll just waste all your time. And that's where your head is at lately. The thing is about beliefs such as these is that on one hand, you suspect you can do this. And the reason why you suspect you can do this is because you formed the ambition in the first place. You had the goal in the first place. And it's still attractive to you even now. There's something in you that has a knowing that that doing this project, learning a foreign language, whatever it is possible, and that's why you embarked on it at all. And so this is what I refer to as your original vision, your original wisdom. And my personal bias is always to trust the original vision of this coming together. But nevertheless, you also have this psychology that says, I can't, it's impossible, and I won't. And this is an aspect of your psychology that is dedicated to not allowing you to move through, not allowing you to proceed. And what's difficult about this sort of psychology is that it's really good at collecting data. It has a lot of reasons. It has a lot of arguments. And so as you and I talk, you might be just totally straight up and down convinced that you can't. So here's how this tool works. Here's how to actually proceed. And here's how to release the self-doubt. Remember that we have to release this self-doubt if it's your desire to step into this new level of success that you want to move into. Because if you don't, then there will be friction the whole way through. Like there'll be too much drag. It won't be possible. This needs to be addressed. This is a two-part process. The first part is to decide for good. Decide for good. Decide which of the two things is ultimately true. This is not going to be the end of it. This is not going to make anything go away. It's not going to fix anything just right yet. But this is a necessary step in order to dissolve the fear and in order to dissolve the friction. So is there a monster in the closet or not? Is this belief true or not? Is it possible for you to do this thing, to break the 4-minute mile or whatever it is? Or is it impossible and it's not possible for you to do and it's too difficult and you can't? Because only one of these two options can be true. They both can't be simultaneously true. And your job after this will be to choose one, because as soon as you choose one, the opposite will seem to be true. Like, for example, if you choose that, like, I can't, this is not possible, then you'll still get this vision of perhaps being able to do it. And if you choose that you can do it, it's like, yep, this is what my belief is. I believe this. Then you'll also get messaging of like, you'll still get doubt and fear and cynicism and skepticism coming up in you. So it's not like the option isn't clear. You just have to choose on your own right now. And I suggest choosing your original vision, choosing to side with the original, knowing that this is for you to do, you can do it, and that there's a place in the world for your creation, if it's like creating an art or a business or so forth. And as you make this decision, like, put a stake in it in such a way that no matter what comes up, you may continue to experience all the emotions, all the doubt, all the fear, all the frustration, all the disappointment. It'll be up, it'll be down, your progress will be erased, you'll be confused, you'll be caught in the desert. It could take years, there will be uncertainty. Like, all of that can still come up, the whole thing, all the difficulty. We're not negating any of that, but when any of that arises, none of that will be a reason to touch your original vision. This is called committing on the bottomless level. So you'll have all this come up, but it won't affect your belief that this can still happen. So that's phase one. And so once you've done that, now comes phase two, which is stop resisting the negative thoughts. You don't have to police your thoughts anymore, because whenever you try to stop thinking something, you end up thinking more of it. Whenever you struggle against your own mind, whatever's the nature of that struggle, it'll be inflated and inflamed. That's just how these things work. Just in the same way, if you're the mayor of a populace and you tell people to stop saying something or stop doing something, a lot, especially the young kids, will be like, well, fuck you. No, I'm going to do a whole bunch more of it. It's just like that. Instead, what you do is you choose what you believe and learn not to be triggered. Learn not to be affected by what comes up. So if self-doubt or self-judgment or self-criticism comes up, it's not a problem anymore. Just welcome it in. It's cool. Whatever. It's like cool. It's like almost like, thank you for sharing, mind. Thank you for sharing this doubt and this cynicism. It's interesting. That's an interesting point of view. And then once you stop reacting against it, once you stop fighting against it and being triggered by it, then it has no power over you anymore. It can't threaten you anymore. There's no threat. You're saying to it, good, okay, good. Like, if that's so, then show me. Whatever, fine. I'm just going to keep going. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. And then once you're firm about that, so you can see it's not an effort thing. There's nothing to do. It's just you choose your belief and continue to believe in your belief in spite of the old momentum of evidence that says to the contrary, and keep it long enough for a new, so that new evidence can come in to support your new belief. By the way, that's the nature of belief. That's how belief works. When you believe something, evidence is automatically unconsciously gathered to support it. That's how you have flat earthers, and that's how you have like anti-vaxxers, and that's how you have people that just believe whatever they believe in spite of evidence to the contrary, because when you believe something, you attract evidence to support it, and then you have a database. And so it becomes really problematic if you hold a belief about yourself that like you're garbage or that you can't or that you'll fail, because you just automatically start getting evidence to support it. And if you don't know better, then you'll just start believing the evidence. You'll say, oh, right, because there's all this evidence, it must be true. Well, no, evidence doesn't equal truth. You can always find evidence. So you need to express leadership over your mind. You need to choose first what you believe. I mean, if we're talking about like mitochondria in the cell, maybe it's a little bit of a different thing. I don't know. But when we're talking about you and your future and your potential and your projects and your vision for yourself, yeah, it's belief first, evidence second. That's why people with real scientific, cold, hard-nosed skepticism tend to struggle in this area so much, because there's this dogmatic belief in evidence first, belief second. But that doesn't apply in this realm that we're talking about. So phase one, choose what you believe, ground yourself in it, and mentally prepare to not allow evidence, data, results, feedback to sway you from your belief. Keep the belief at least long enough to allow new evidence to come in. All right, well, that's phase one and two. Phase two is, phase one is choose the belief. Phase two is just allow the old momentums to die out. And that's how you do it. So that's how to be congruent with something. And now couple that with a good strategy. So what are you doing? It's not enough just to have belief, although belief is utterly essential, because then after that, it's like, have a daily action. What are you doing? Make sure that you have a plan and a strategy, and that you're executing that plan and strategy constantly. And so that will be stuff of future videos, and also past videos if you look for them. So good. So that's what to do about negative thought. That's what's to do about self-doubt, self-judgment, skepticism. If you find you're judging yourself, it's like you have these opinions about yourself, or if other people have opinions about you, well, choose what is true, what's true. And the truth is, you deserve respect. You're amazing. You belong here. You're valuable. We need you. You're loved. You're supported. All of this is true. So choose it. Choose these truths. And then let opinions fly. Let other people have their opinions. Let you have your own opinions. Opinions are just opinions. They're worth, like, one opinion is worth like 3 cents on the market when I last checked. There's so many of them. Let people have their opinions. Let thoughts come and go. Just because a thought appears in your mind doesn't mean you have to believe it. That's such an important principle. You can let thoughts enter your mind, and just because they're there doesn't mean they're true. Like, it sounds obvious as I say it, but people don't know that. Most people don't know that. Master the art of allowing a thought to appear in your mind without you like grabbing onto it and being hypnotized by it and like fucking running with it. You will have achieved such a deep level of personal mastery just by having that locked down. So good. I think that's it. I think that's what I came here to say. Please click like. I'd be so grateful. Consider subscribing so that we can be pals, so that I can coach you, so that I can guide you over time, and together we can step into higher actualization. And also consider sharing this with somebody. If you feel like somebody could benefit from this message, let them hear it. I'd be grateful for that too. Cool. Thank you.